We begin tonight with the latest testimony in the Delphi double murder trial. Hello and thanks for watching ABC 57 News here at 5. I'm Brian Bunner. The main witness today was one of the detectives who handled the gruesome scene where the bodies of Abby Williams and Libby German were discovered with their throats cut nearly 8 years ago. ABC 57's Annie Kate is covering the trial for us. She's live in studio tonight with key parts of today's testimony. Annie?
Yeah, Brian, the focus of today's testimony was all about the crime scene, the evidence documented, and how it was preserved. Brian Olehy was called back to the stand today. He started his testimony yesterday, but it was cut short for time. Now, he was the lead crime scene investigator on February 14th, 2017, the day Abigail Williams and Libby German were found brutally murdered under the Monon High Bridge in Delphi. On the stand, he said, quote, "Documentation of the scene and preservation of the scene are most important," end quote. For the first time, the prosecution brought out physical evidence, 2 large boxes full of brown evidence bags, including the items of clothing found in Deer Creek, DNA swabs from both girls, dirt samples, rape kits, and the clothes Abby died in, and the .40 caliber cartridge found near the bodies. Jurors were allowed to examine some of the exhibits to see how they were packaged and sealed. But in cross-examination, Brad Rosie presented evidence from the scene that had no link to Richard Allen. The defense is arguing that the prosecution cannot place Allen at the crime scene. Also in cross, they went over how bizarre the scene in general was. Libby was naked and her clothes on Abby. Abby's clothes in Deer Creek. And just like yesterday, Rosie grilled Olehy about the sticks on the bodies and why more wasn't done on shoe impressions in the area. Rosie asked if there were unique circumstances at the scene, to which Olehy said, quote, "Every scene presents with unique circumstances," end quote. Rosie referred to the cartridge as a, quote, "magic bullet," to which the prosecution objected, and Judge Gall agreed, saying, quote, "Your characterization is improper," end quote. He was asked about the red mark found on one of the nearby trees, which he said, quote, "When I looked at it, it looked like a large transfer of blood." The jury asking Olehy questions too, asking about common practices when handling evidence, just showing their engagement in the case. Now, the state's next witness, the ISP digital forensics investigator who looked at Libby's phone. I'll have his testimony coming up at 6. But at 5:30, we'll revisit the probable cause affidavit that got Richard Allen arrested 2 years ago. For now, live in studio, I'm Annie Kate. Brian, back to you. Prosecutor Nick McClelland's opening statement at trial on Friday, he said this is a story about a bullet, bridge guy, and the brutal murder of 2 girls. So they're trying to prove that bridge guy is the killer and that Richard Allen is bridge guy. But what was it that got him arrested? We are revisiting the probable cause affidavit that led to his arrest and safekeeping in prison for nearly 2 years. Allen was first interviewed in 2017, and he admitted he was on the trails the day the girls disappeared between 1:30 and 3:30 in the afternoon. The court document stating a surveillance camera caught Richard Allen's movements in a 2016 Ford Focus, corroborating his own statement. And witnesses, saying they saw a man who looks like Bridge Guy from Libby's Snapchat video, which is playing right now on your screen. He had jeans and a blue-colored jacket. One witness saw a man wearing those same clothes looking muddy and bloody, as if he had gotten into a fight walking west on 300 North away from the Monon High Bridge trail. This would have been just before 4 p.m. on February 13th, 2017. Allen was interviewed again on October 13th, 2022, 5 years after his first police interview, saying he was wearing blue jeans and a dark Carhartt jacket. He said he had guns, so police searched and found a Sig Sauer model P226 .40 caliber pistol. After lab testing, investigators determined the unspent round had been cycled through Allen's gun. He had purchased the gun in 2001 and in an October 26, 2022 interview said he could not explain how the bullet got to the crime scene, but denied involvement in their murders. Now, the PCA describes Allen owning a Sig Sauer .400 caliber pistol, but in court so far, we keep hearing about Allen having a Smith & Wesson .40 caliber handgun. So I have some confusion there. I'm going to dig into this and figure out why there's that disconnect. And we also know the defense will work to debunk the methods used to prove the cartridge cycled through Allen's gun. Coming up on ABC 57 News at 6, we're picking back up in trial the state's next witness, the digital forensics investigator who looked at Libby's phone. We're going to see her Snapchat video, the down the hill video, but in its entirety. For now, live in studio, I'm Annie Kate. Back to you. Yep, that's right, Brian. The state's second witness today was Brian Bunner, an ISP lieutenant of digital forensics, who investigated Libby's Apple iPhone 6s with an AT&T SIM card. Now, they discussed the phone's chain of custody and how Bunner extracted Libby's Snapchat data. On the stand, he said, quote, "Time was of the essence. We wanted to get info to the detectives to help further their case as soon as possible. It showed a video was taken," end quote. The prosecution then played that video for the jury. Now, this is the infamous video where we see what the prosecution calls Bridge Guy. It was taken at 2:13 p.m. on February 13th, 2017, and so far, only a few seconds of it have been released to the public, what you just saw on your screen. Today, the jury saw it in its entirety. Libby can be heard saying, quote, "There's no path, so we have to go down here," end quote. That's before you can hear the infamous "down the hill." The phone was examined again in 2019 by Sergeant Chris Cecil. Now, in cross-examination, defense attorney Jennifer Olehy attacked the methods to extract the data from the phone. She asked, quote, "Is it true every time you plug in the phone, you lose data?" To which Bunner replied, quote, "It is true. We didn't know that then." Olehy saying, quote, "That's data you can never get back and data the jury will never know," end quote. In redirect, though, McClelland clarified that photos and videos would not have been lost. That was actually a question from a juror showing how seriously the jury is taking this case. Now, there were more witnesses that were called today, including witnesses who claimed to have seen Bridge Guy on the trails, one helping create one of the widely circulated police sketches. Their testimony coming up tonight on ABC 57 Night Team. For now, live in studio, Annie Kate. Brian, back to you. So far today, I've told you about the testimony from the lead crime scene investigator and a digital forensics investigator, but the state got through several more witnesses in the afternoon session. The next witness, former ISP Sergeant Jeremy Chapman, who enhanced Libby's Snapchat video of Bridge Guy. On the stand, he said, quote, "My goal is to make things a little more clear." Then Riley Voorhees, a social media friend of Libby and Abby, who walked on the Monon High Trail the day the girls disappeared. She saw a man walking back from the High Bridge saying, quote, "He did not seem to be a happy person," end quote. She later saw the widely circulated image of Bridge Guy, recognizing him as the man she saw. The defense arguing she saw that man too early for it to be Bridge Guy and saying the original description of who she saw does not match Richard Allen. But she affirmed when she saw the still image, she thought it was the same man. Another friend of Libby's, Brianne Wilbur, took the stand and says she was at the trial that day with friends, and Libby even messaged her, "Are you still there?" But they had just left. She did pass a man that they waved to and said hi to, but he didn't respond. She said, quote, "This person was walking with a purpose." And she later testified that he is Bridge Guy, saying after she saw the photo on the news, quote, "That was the person we passed on the trail." Up next on the stand, Betsy Blair with her highly awaited testimony. She testified she saw a man on the bridge and she saw Libby and Abby on the Monon High Bridge trail. Later, she saw on the news that those two girls were missing, so she called the sheriff. She said the man she saw was the man from the photo of Bridge Guy. Again, the defense picked at details from her initial description of the man that didn't match Richard Allen. But in redirect, Blair said, quote, "I knew when I saw the photo that was the guy I saw," end quote. The final witness of the day, investigator Steve Mullen. He's the one who reviewed the surveillance video that captured cars coming and going the day of the murders. They were able to corroborate witness statements from that footage. Trial picks up tomorrow at 9 a.m. in Carroll County. We'll be right back here with the latest testimony. In studio, Annie Kate, ABC 57 News.